Let's stand and do the pledge of allegiance, please. Face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Harper. Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Tui.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Manister.
Here.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
And Mayor Kelly's absent.
We need the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Second.
Call the roll.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
We need the consideration of the minutes of last meeting. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the January 5th, 2015 minutes.
Second.
All right, second. We got Maureen and then you two.
All in favor?
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. We have any presentations?
None.
None right now? Okay. How about the public hearing?
The city solicited proposals for engineering services, specifically for design and construction inspection. There were a total of 15 proposals. Oh, we don't have any public hearing, I should say. That's on hold till the March meeting.
Oh, okay. To the March meeting?
Right.
So that's, okay. Scratch that out.
So moving on to the bids. A total of 5 of the 15 were interviewed based on the criteria that was outlined in the local public agency manual. This is a document that is used by MoDOT primarily for cities and counties who are sponsoring agents for federal transportation projects. And based on the criteria set in this manual, the engineering firm that received the highest total scores based on experience and technical competence, capacity and capability, past record of performance is Horner Schifrin. So Public Works Committee recommends that the qualified consultant for this design and construction inspection services is Horner Schifrin.
Is that all we need to do with it right now?
Excuse me?
Is that all we need to do with just?
Right, there is an ordinance later on in the agenda
Oh, okay.
for the approval of that.
I wanted to say this before we went on, that Pat Kelly, had an hip operation, right? And so I'm not him. He didn't age that much. But so we're trying to do as well as I can anyway this evening. And, okay. Hearing of any matter of public interest, request from any person, if you want to speak to the board, come forward, give your name and address. Anyone who wants to speak?
Melanie Hancock, I'm on Lewis Avenue. Bola was great at the traffic meeting in addressing getting a stripe on Lewis Avenue to handle the traffic coming out of the Shell station and designating 2 lanes. Stay on your side, so we don't have problems with cars coming in from Manchester not being able to turn up Lewis. I don't know what they used to paint the stripe. It was great for about 2 months. You can't even see it anymore. Another issue with it is the runoff from RPM washing their cars goes onto, I'd say, 2 feet of the right-hand side of Lewis Avenue at the bottom, and nobody wants to drive in it. So they end up in the middle of the street.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone's ever addressed that with RPM. It's a big, wet, oily puddle at the bottom of Lewis.
Okay.
Pretty much constantly. If it's over freezing, they're washing cars, runs out on Lewis.
Okay. This is the first time I'm
Yeah.
hearing it, so we'll follow up.
So, I mean, aside from being unsightly, it's a disgusting oily puddle.
Yeah, I come down that way. I live on Eulalie, so it's a lot of times
Yeah.
I go down through there.
And I
understand.
walk down to the gas station a lot, and I walk along, going down to Manchester, and I would love for somebody to say something to them, see if there's an alternative method for them to deal with their wastewater, especially since it contains oil and gas and things. And it's completely negating the having a line down there and controlling the traffic.
Sure.
So, but yeah, the line's gone. Thank you for my line, but it's gone now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Denise Sebbing, 2612 Porter. And first of all, I'd like to suggest or advocate that the board gives our city administration the okay to apply for the Resolution 1027 regarding improving or trying to get the grant to improve that Manchester corridor. I agree with the lady who just spoke. That whole area, really, that whole area east of Brentwood needs vast improvement. It's in dire straits. And I think we need to do everything we can to try to improve that area. Maureen, I appreciate that you brought it to some of the residents' attention that this was even coming up today. I'm kind of surprised that Andy and Keith, this is in your ward, that you all didn't bring it to the constituents' attention, because this does impact all of us that live in the Ward 3 area, especially the southeast corner of the Ward 3 area. I think, in reading the South 40, the mayor had publicly stated in his last coffee with the residents that, Andy, he felt like you haven't done a lot to help in that area. And I have to say, Keith, I think you haven't really done too much either. So that, given the fact that, I've asked 3 times in aldermanic meetings why constituents have to email your work address, Andy, instead of being able to email the city, and I've yet to get an answer. I have to say, we've got a couple of people that are running for Ward 3 candidates, and they're very hungry to improve the Manchester area, the Ward 3 area, and all of Manchester in general, or all of Brentwood in general. So I would say that, if you're not hungry and you don't want to work for the Ward 3 constituents, maybe you should think about resigning and letting some other people that are wanting to do the things that Brentwood residents want them to do run. Thank you.
Anyone else? Close the public part. Next will be the introduction and reading and passage of bills and resolutions. And for this evening, we have, 4 bills, isn't that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
4 bills. Okay.
4 bills, 4 ordinances.
And 2 resolutions.
We need a motion in order to read the first and second readings of the 4 bills. Can we have somebody make a motion that we can read?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
To have the first reading of those 4 bills. The bills are 5947, 5948, 5949, and 5950.
We need a vote on the motion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right, let's have a roll call.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm sorry.
First reading Bill Number 5947 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute an agreement between Horner and Schifrin, Inc. for engineering services and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis?
Synopsis, yes.
Yes, Your Honor. For Bill number 5947, the Hanley Industrial Court Pedestrian Improvement Project. This covers engineering services. In April 2014, the City of Brentwood approved Ordinance 4525, authorizing an agreement between the City of Brentwood and MoDOT, that for a Surface Transportation Project, or STP. It was an urban program agreement, and the project starts from the intersection of Strassner Drive and Hanley Industrial Court, runs west along Strassner Drive to Memorial Park. Also from the north side of the Hanley Industrial Complex along Hanley Industrial Court, south to the intersection of Hanley Industrial Court and Bernard Drive. The project includes sidewalks and pedestrian lighting. The federal grant funding covers 80% of the project costs. Local match, 20%, is being funded through an agreement between the City of Brentwood and the Hanley Industrial Court Association, as well as Pelagic LLC. Total project cost, $938,881. Of that, the federal match is $751,105. The local match, $112,776. Hanley Industrial Court Association of $50,000, and Pelagic match of $25,000, equaling the total of $75,000 on the match. This bill has been recommended for approval, Bill 5947.
Any discussion?
Second reading.
Second reading? Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5947 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute an agreement between Horner and Schifrin, Inc. for engineering services and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Any comments?
Motion, Your Honor, to prefer Bill 5947 into ordinance form.
Second? Yes, Maureen.
I just have one comment. Ola, we had said at Public Works, when you add in the rows and all of the development STB grants that we've gotten for the Hanley Industrial Court area, our match has been approximately $600,000 in total.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that. Okay,
You need a second.
thanks.
I'll second, Your Honor.
I said second reading. A vote.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Toohey?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5947 is now ordinance number 4605.
Next is Bill 5948.
First reading, Bill number 5948 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a sponsorship agreement with Whole Foods Market, providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Someone want to perfect that into ordinance? What?
Second reading.
Oh, second reading.
Synopsis.
Yes, Your Honor, the synopsis for Bill
We'll get it right.
5948. It's quite all right. The new joint program with Whole Foods, the Make It or Bake It program presented by the Whole Foods. It's a new parks program for youths ages between 6 and 12, and that's to teach participants how to incorporate healthy foods into their favorite snacks. There'll be a total of 6 classes once a month from 10:30 a.m. to noon, a maximum of 8 children per class. Staff has reviewed Proposal 5948, the bill, and recommends its approval.
You ready for second reading? You ready for second reading?
Second reading, Bill number 5948 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a sponsorship agreement with Whole Foods Market, providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Any comments?
Motion to perfect Bill 5948 into ordinance form.
Second, someone?
Second.
Second. Call the roll.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Toohey?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5948 is now ordinance number 4606.
Bill number-
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
Ms. Conde, will we be sending a thank you note to Whole Foods for the last program that they ran?
5949.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
All right, bill number 5949.
First reading, Bill number 5949 by title only, an ordinance amending Title 3, Chapter 300 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, by repealing sections 310.030, 315.120, and 315.130 of said chapters relating to play streets, enacting in lieu thereof new sections 310.030 and 315.120, providing for the maintenance of this code, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Now I get it right this time. Synopsis.
Yes, Your Honor, this topic's been discussed before. Bill 5949, the ordinance to repeal and amend play streets, that language in the Brentwood Municipal Code. 3 sections of the Brentwood Municipal Code refer to play streets. Title 3, Chapter 300, Traffic Code, Section 310.030, 315.120, and 315.130. In 2014, the Public Safety Committee and the Board of Aldermen voted not to make any changes to the language in the code, as the Play Streets legislation itself was found to be too restrictive. The Public Safety Committee of Brentwood has now recommended the Board of Aldermen delete in its entirety the last sentence of Section 310.030, delete Section 315.120 and 315.130 in its entirety, and therefore insert new Section 315.120 that refers to slow-children.
Yes, Maureen?
Well, I thought part of the reason the slow children was that some people thought that that language was maybe offensive. It's fine with me. It was in front of my house. It said slow children, so I was fine with that. So basically what we're going back to is what we had before. So now the only two slow children's streets, we're going to keep Hatton and Lawn Avenue as the two slow children's street. Is that what public safety intended?
There is the 8900 block from Annalee to High School, including Patton and White as well.
They were just,
So there are
Okay,
a
that's
total
not
of
in
three.
the new code.
That's in the traffic schedule, GG. So
Okay,
you
I
would
was
need to
looking
turn.
at page 431 of the new code that listed that. I just want to know, Park Ridge was always a slow children's street. Can we continue to keep that as a slow children street?
If the request is being made, definitely the police department will take a look at it and bring that back to public safety. That was the same process that was used to add to add the 8900 block of Annalee. However, if you would prefer to skip that process and just make a motion here, then the police department could still take a look at it, and if the recommendation is affirmative, we would install it there.
I guess I just didn't understand the process of how a street gets designated as slow children isn't necessarily stated. And so I didn't even know, how Park Ridge was removed from.
I can't answer that, I don't know.
I think what happened was, we had two that were on there, and then nobody ever added anything. I think that's the thing. The two were on there, and they just left them when they went back to the old, the way we named them. And I think other streets can just simply be added.
When streets are added, it is approved through a similar ordinance,
Yeah.
like we're doing tonight.
Right.
So, and this is me just speculating.
Nobody
I'll probably
named.
leave it at that. I'm not certain exactly why it was removed. Chief Fitzgerald, do you have any idea? No.
Okay.
I think I have to take a lot of well, I don't know if you call it credit, because I remember I made the statement in sort of a jesting fashion. We don't have slow children in Brentwood, because I taught in Brentwood for a long time. And I think it was taken as though, and I think I made the mistake of people took me seriously. And that's one reason they went away from the others. And I didn't really mean it that way. I meant, well, I was trying to praise the kids in Brentwood at the same. Anyway.
I'm
I
fine.
think
I'm just saying, in
that's
front
how
of
it
my
started.
house, we always had the sign that said
Yeah.
slow children, because my brother-in-law would tease that my kids were slow, but I'm fine with that, because in my particular block, we have lots of children, so.
Andy?
Couple of questions, if I may, because I am a little confused on the terminologies that we're using. If you look in front of the high school right now, the street, High School Drive around the high school is marked with caution children to work with. Is that a different definition and markings for streets than this one?
I believe that our public works staff may have put that there. It's not referenced in the code.
Correct, it is not. That's why I'm trying to figure out. I thought we had caution children and moved it to the play streets. Is that correct?
No, we never
This
did
is a whole
that.
different one, all right.
Right.
The second question I have is, in this bill, you're removing section 315.120, which allows the city traffic engineer to determine which streets should be named or classified in this arrangement. Since you're removing that from the code, we have nothing in the code that establishes how a street does get into this classification to work with. So is this the best way to process this bill?
The process would be to consult with the police department. They do an assessment to first determine how fast cars are going along that stretch. They put the speed counter there, coupled with observation and the complaint that was brought in by whomever on the street brings it, which would be something similar that the traffic engineer would do. But in recent times, it's been the police department who have been doing that.
Should we have that in the code? That's the process for having a street evaluated? Because by removing 315-120, you have no means of getting a street designated.
Did public safety revisit this when it came back? Do you
They
know,
did.
Alderman?
Yes, we
We
did.
took this to public safety in January. You could make a motion to change that to read authority to establish.
Well, but you're taking that section out.
Right.
So by rights, we'd have to replace the section with a new section to work with.
Well, we could
But
put it on hold.
it's a matter of just getting some consistency instead
I
of.
mean, this bill isn't a rush bill, like, you know, it's gonna make a whole big.
We can bring back some changes for the next meeting if what you're saying is you'd like someone designated to be able to determine how.
A process.
How you designate the
Yes,
street slow
to
children.
work with. And then for reality, what I was looking to do next then was to establish what are streets and get some consistency. If slow caution children is one category and slow children is another and children at play is the one that we're trying to pull out, can we get the code to reflect what street we're trying to work with and what term we really want it to mean and how we go about making those changes?
The list of streets are in Schedule GG at the back of the Brentwood Code. We typically just put slow children. Caution
Shouldn't.
is just a traffic sign that was used interchangeably throughout the city to slow drivers
There's-
down. So that would not necessarily be what you would put all the time if you're trying to caution people to slow down. There's children at play.
Also have yellow metallic signs that are posted, and I don't know if it's Brentwood Forest doing the posting or if the city has a code for it. Right now, it just says caution and has a figurine of a child playing or running out on a metallic sign hanging on the metal sign arrangements, nothing on the street. Is this the same caution that we're trying to do, or is that something Brentwood Forest put up?
Do you want to?
Yes, Your Honor, and Alderman Leahy and Bolo, there's a Pandora's box being opened here, and I think it's highly important to go back to the original intent of Bill 5949, which is not to affect the Schedule GG or any of the streets included. It's simply to reverse an action that we were going to take in conveyance of trying to be in congruency with the state legislator intention.
Exactly.
And we found that that was not necessary, and the Public Safety Committee deemed that it was not important for our city to do that, and in fact caused some difficulties. So all this is doing is reversing what we did before. It's not doing anything to the amount or names or quality of streets that are being included or discluded.
Can I answer?
Yeah, Cindy, you had your hand up.
Well, I just, I mean, I imagine that any street that has a lot of children on their street, everybody would want these signs. And if it's evaluated based on the traffic or how fast the cars are going on that particular street with that machine that tells you exactly how fast you're going, I think that that's skewed a little bit because most people, when they see that, will slow down. So you won't get an accurate reading of how fast people actually travel on that particular street. And my understanding is that basically these signs are meant, to caution people to slow down because there are children that live in the area that play on these streets. Is there a way to just make them all say the same thing? So as opposed to certain signs saying slow children and other signs saying caution children at play,
Yes.
can they all just say the same thing so it's all
Consistent.
yes,
Consistent.
exactly.
Frank?
Could I interject something? I think what you need to understand is the way this ordinance was set up and the way it is set up now calls for the Board of Aldermen to specifically designate those streets which would qualify as slow children's streets by adding them to the schedule of streets. Once you do that, if a police officer, for instance, saw somebody violating that, that would be a traffic ordinance violation, just like speeding or any other violation. Somewhere along the line, slow children signs may have been put up to accommodate some neighbors' concerns, but without those streets, or the caution signs, but without them being specifically designated for enforcement. So the way this is right now, this ordinance would take you back to where you had specific designated streets, and if public safety or whatever group the board would decide to make this determination, decide additional streets, and that would be brought to the board to be added to the schedule.
That's
No,
right.
I disagree, though. I mean, as far as the Play Street, originally, the way when we decided to revisit with this was what the Play Street said, you could only be on those streets if you had intended business. And we decided, no, that's not what we wanted to do. As far as these two streets getting the designation, you guys haven't paid attention to these charts in years because you don't know when Park Ridge was on and when Park Ridge was off. So it's not very fair to keep these particular streets on as slow children when you pick and choose which one, you know what I mean? Some of them were slow children and were removed. I don't think that just because this says slow children, caution, what would be, I mean, can't you have a penalty for that? I mean, I don't understand the moving violation. What would you be enforcing there?
Well, there would be a penalty for it, and it would be.
What would that be, though? I mean,
it would
like
be up
speeding would
to-
be speeding.
It would be up to the maximum fine permitted under our ordinances, which I believe are
But what would be
now
the
$1,000.
violation?
CNI?
For instance, and of course it would be a judgment call, any vehicle perceived not to have slowed and approached with caution at a street designated as slow children.
It doesn't say that that's what slow
Well, it
children,
says-
in the code,
Shall-
it doesn't say you have to approach with caution. It's a warning sign. I
Well,
mean,
but this says, shall be posted, slow children shall slow such vehicle or other conveyance and approach with caution. That would be the violation if a vehicle did not slow and approach with caution. Again, this is a matter for determination of the board as to what they want. But these other signs, in my opinion, the ones that say caution children, that does not make it a slow children's street, which would be subject to enforcement under this ordinance.
I
The
guess
only
my thing
ones-
is how do we justify keeping Hatton and Lawn?
Well, that's for the board to determine. Whether it's by review of public safety or the police department.
Separate issue.
Right. We could
It's a
also
separate
talk to the individuals who live along the street to find out whether they believe that's still warranted for that neighborhood. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of staff since I wasn't here when, do you remember how long ago that sign was removed?
My sign was up there when we moved in 91. So what I'm saying, though, is that when it was removed, I just don't believe that these slow children street, that there's been much attention paid to this in the code book. I'd have to go back and look. Like, I guess we could look at RO 2009-14-1003 and then go back to 1969. Those are the two references that we have.
I don't know.
It just seems to me that the code was not keeping up with the practice.
I have a question.
It just seems to me that it'd be simpler to just send it back to public safety and let us work it over again and bring it back again with the things we've heard tonight, incorporate into it, what it seemed like.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make that motion to recommend.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I just want to understand, so if you speed on a street that has a slow children sign on
only two of
it,
them.
that's two moving violations, one for going over the speed limit and one for violating that sign? Is that how that, is that what that means?
I doubt if it would be issued for both of those.
I mean, but is that what the,
But again,
I'm just trying to understand.
The one thing
what
that
was
I
the
think gets confusing is there are a number of signs up on streets that are not specifically designated by ordinance as a street subject to that enforcement.
These are.
Yeah. No.
Want to make that motion?
If I may follow up on Mrs. Minister's comment. Right now, most of your streets have a 25-mile speed limit. So if a car is doing 23 and comes into a slow children area, there's nothing in the ordinance that says, oh, by the way, you should drop below 20. So you can't issue the car for speeding in an area as long as he's following the speed limit or lower. You might want to stop and officer discretion as to whether they're operating the vehicle in a prudent manner with children present. But again, the ordinance doesn't give me that enforcement power either. All we're doing is putting names on roads and signs, which I don't think accomplishes anything in the way of trying to protect any further, other than trying to let the residents know these are where my kids for schools walking and out that are playing, that let's pay attention to them and be careful of the kid walking out between two parked cars type thing. But I would like to recommend moving 5949 back to public safety. And I'd like to ask public safety to evaluate the caution signs throughout the city of Brentwood and designate streets appropriately, and then bring the bill back.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second that. But the comment I want to is, one, we should really find out what street signs we have and how these streets are all designated and marked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, Bola, when you're referencing Schedule GG, that's the old code. The new revised code is Schedule 12, and it's 12-C, and it's page 431, because this code was adopted in December.
Mm-hmm.
So the GG is the old code,
Okay,
and we're
Shep,
now operating under the new code.
can we call the roll?
Your Honor, if I could ask,
Oh.
or make a point real quick. Just a reminder, once again, to my knowledge, Bill 5949, even though it's going back to public safety, potentially, the language here was strictly meant to reverse the action that we put in place before. That's all it was meant to do. Second of all, I think it's important to clarify that the signs, my understanding, read slow children, not slow children. And just the same way the caution children signs are read. I think there's a graphic that goes there so that it's pretty evident that it's slow and then children separately. That's all I had.
Can you call the roll?
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes.
Can I just add, can we make sure the items people want to address get addressed when it goes back to public safety? Because this is forth a few times. It seems not to be very clear what we're trying to achieve.
And if you all want to comment to us in public safety or send us notes or whatever, situations are, it would be helpful.
Okay.
So, okay. Bola, you have anything else for?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Just so we can clarify, though, I think, again, I'd like to clarify the process of adding a
Right.
street to.
Okay. Okay, then let's go to Bill 5950.
First reading, Bill number 5950 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into and execute an engagement letter and confidentiality agreement with Cook and Riley LLC and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Now, is there anything on this? So we have people from that group here?
Yes, Dan Cook and Scott Riley are present. Last fall, may I comment on it? Last fall, the Board of Aldermen authorized the mayor and the city administrator to enter into and execute the Eighth Amendment to and restatement of the redevelopment agreement among city and Eagle Road Associates. Within this document, there is a section 2.3 that states that the city may engage at the expense of the trust for the TIF obligation a third party approved by both the developer and the city to act as an agent to monitor the sales tax collection on a monthly or quarterly basis. Within this document, both the developer and the city agreed to Cook and Riley LLC to act as the city's agent to perform this sales tax collection monitoring. So Following the approval, we approached Cook and Riley, and that is why, for your consideration this evening, there is an engagement letter and a confidentiality agreement that would allow the city to release the sales tax report that we get from the state to them for their review on either a monthly or quarterly basis. The cost for this annual service is $8,000, and it will be paid from the city's TIF obligation. So if you have specific questions for them, they're here and are available to answer that.
Did you read the first reading? Have you had
First
the
reading?
First reading.
Yes, we did do first reading.
Okay, let's have this now.
Yes, Your Honor, Bill 5950, this covers the engagement agreement with Cook and Riley, covers an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Brentwood and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an engagement agreement and confidentiality agreement with Cook and Riley LLC, and that is for the purpose of monitoring sales tax collections pursuant to Section 2.3, that of the Eighth Amendment, and restatement of the redevelopment agreement. The confidentiality agreement would also allow the city to share the monthly sales tax reports sent to the city from the Missouri Department of Revenue.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may. Mr. Conde, I'd like to raise a couple issues, and if I can direct my questions through you to the two gentlemen to work with. On page 2 in the letter that we have, second paragraph from the bottom, it establishes that the city turns over all these nice reports to the firm and that they get 60 days to start to do the review, to start turning over reports to the city to work with. I assume we're starting with the January of this year to work through. On page 3, in the fourth paragraph, it establishes the $8,000 payment to be done in $4,000 breakouts, but it has it paying out in June and December. You won't get your 6 months worth of activity until August and in February of 2016. Is it permissible to correct the payment arrangements to match with services rendered? Is the first question.
This is Dan Cook.
Do you want to come to the podium?
State your name and where you're from.
Sorry. Daniel Cook, Cook and Riley. I have no issue with changing the pay dates.
Thank you, sir. Second question that I have is the problem that we ran into earlier was the fact that we had bad reporting from businesses within the area. But the information that we're providing to the group is the exact same thing that we had last time. The state gets their filings. What is it that we're going to be getting that helps identify a miscoding that we end up not having the same problem repeated?
Well, given the fact that we've experienced that the first time, we'll be able to look at trends and determine if revenue is coming in the way it has in the past. That would be a red flag. Also, we're going to be sending out letters to all the businesses within the district, providing them with the code, the sales tax code for that district, and copying the developer on that so that we're constantly communicating with the different businesses in the district and making certain that they're aware of what the proper code should be.
Understand what you're saying. So here's my question for the follow-up. Assuming a business, as they did in the last time, with all the right information, still makes a mistake in filing the taxes, it becomes a city problem because we do the pass-through of the money. And I want to know how we get around that, since we can't control the error being made by somebody outside our jurisdiction.
Well, wouldn't they perform analytics and look at cash flow projections, the actuals, to at least determine if there's there's an anomaly and something's wrong?
Well, we thought we'd see the anomalies the last time.
Were they
and it took
looking?
us $600,000 to get the city, the state, and the county all to agree that, oops, there was a problem.
But were they looking?
We saw them. It's just whether we corrected them.
Yeah.
Let's let him answer.
There's Mike Grimm.
The redevelopment agreement, I was going way back when the city did not obtain monthly sales tax
Correct.
reports. And so, so as Bola mentioned, hopefully with the city finance staff and the monitor both looking at trends, hopefully that would be apparent. But Section 2.3D, paragraph D of the redevelopment agreement specifically says, other than taking the steps set forth in this section, the city will have no duties, obligations, or liability in connection with the collection and deposit of sales tax revenues. So the redevelopment agreement says if we do A, B, C, D, the city has no further liability. So the city is engaging Cook and Riley to do A, B, C, D as a second set of eyes on what the finance staff will be doing. And so the redevelopment agreement is very explicit that the city has no further liabilities if it follows those steps.
All right. Let me follow up your answer with the last question, then, if I may. May I have the floor still? Yes. I'm on page 2 of the letter. I'm in the second paragraph. The monthly reports will not include information regarding sales, excise tax stemming from utilities included but not limited to the following: the electrical, the utility, gas utilities, water utilities, television, and telephone. I'm under the understanding in the redevelopment agreement number 8 that these taxes are supposed to be included in the formulas. Am I misunderstanding the agreements?
Well, they're included in the formulas only if the developer provides information that enables the city to do those calculations. To this point, the developer has not provided any information, and so therefore the city has no obligation to do those calculations.
Ms. Octavia, that answer I'd like in the minutes very clearly, because that's going to become critical long term. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Yes, Maureen?
Can I ask, I'm sure this is legally the way it is, but do we need permission from the Missouri State Department of Revenue? I mean, we're granting permission to Cook and Riley, City of Brentwood, but I thought that the authority came from Missouri. Like, for instance, Missouri only allows the city to see them. Are we permitted to then convey that to someone else?
Yes, and DOR has seen these confidentiality agreements, and they're comfortable with this.
Okay, they are, because it just seems to me they're the one that grants the authority, so they don't have to sign off on this at all?
Right.
Okay. And then where are the bonds sitting right now?
They're sold.
With the developer.
With the developer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
If I may, I'd like to amend this agreement. And on page 2, in the 4th paragraph, I'd like to make a motion to amend the June to be August and the installment paid in December to be February 2016.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
I would not put the year, since it would be ongoing.
Oh, that's, okay.
So the first installment to be in August and the second installment to be in February.
The following February.
Right.
Okay.
Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Yes.
And just one last thing, the TDD, we've received a fee in the past for TDD calculations, Bola, the city.
Right.
Is this TDD a different TDD, or do we still receive a fee?
This is specifically for the TIF, and we receive $15,000 every year, and that's called for in the trust indenture for fees related to administrative function performance by the city.
Okay, and we'll still get that fee even though we're now having someone else do the calculations?
Exactly,
on
because
the
there's
TDD?
administrative functions that we do, so it would cover some of the fees, some of the cost of us providing that service. Also, we have paid attorney's fees from that in the past as well.
Okay. And then, Andy, to you, the TDD is based on sales revenue too. So you can use that as a tracking, the TDD compared to the TIF as a way too to see whether the funds are flowing correctly.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we had an amendment to the first, but I don't think we had an amendment to the second.
Amendment to the first.
We had the first agreed to amend his motion, but we didn't agree to amend the second person to amend the motion.
Oh, you're correct, yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, here's your second. All right, Andy? We've had a first and second, right?
You need a vote on the amendment,
It's just on the amendment.
just on the
Just
amendment.
amendment. Okay, roll call. On the amendment, this is on the amendment.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Okay, now we'll take the vote. on-
Second reading.
We need a second reading.
Second reading.
Second reading, Bill Number 5950 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into and execute an engagement letter and confidentiality agreement with Cook and Riley LLC and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Motion to perfect Bill 5950 as amended into ordinance form.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Call the roll.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5950 is now ordinance number 4607.
Now we have two resolutions to consider. One of them, you have somebody here to speak on, Bull, is that right? One of those resolutions?
No, the next resolution is Parks and Recreation.
No, I see there's two here.
It's the one after that.
All right, Resolution 1026.
Your Honor.
Yes.
The synopsis for 1026, that resolution for the Parks and Recreation Department Policy and Procedures Manual. This is a resolution adopting a Parks and Recreation Policies and Procedures Manual, which serves as a reference guide by outlining the policies, procedures, rules, and regulations related to the department's day-to-day operations. Resolution 1026.
Do we have a motion to pass the resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Now,
This next item, we prepared a memo in your packet regarding the resolution in support of the application for a service transportation grant, particularly for Manchester Road. Justin, would you? We started this discussion in Public Works Committee, and the committee asked that when we have additional information, to bring it back to the committee. But since the entire board would need to vote on direction, the committee chair recommends that we present it to you all tonight.
And part of the reason for making sure that we're moving quickly through is the applications are actually due in about 2 weeks. We don't have a whole lot of time, and we're trying to move very quickly through. So since at the last Public Works meeting, basically what we presented to staff at that time was the idea of picking up the same exact project that was submitted in 2013 that did not receive funding. There was a fairly general support from Public Works with some questions for staff to go out and do some additional work on that. One of the main things that was brought up was the idea of engaging some of the property owners along this corridor to see if they would be supportive of this or not. And so I started kind of getting into some of the details of the application itself. And without having directly talked with a lot of these businesses, I think it's fairly evident that the design itself will be seen as a negative, particularly in the time crunch that we have. And the reason I say that, and on the third page of the memo, there's an aerial that was given, and there are several of the parcels along that basically have head-in parking along the front of the building. And when we remove that existing U-gutter or the swale that's along there and install a vertical curb, we would be limiting access into those buildings, and we would essentially render those front parking areas on all of those buildings useless. So there are several, particularly on the north side of the road, that is, I think there's a couple that's the only parking they have. There are several others that is the majority of the parking. So we're concerned, particularly given the time crunch that we have, that we could actually render a lot of these buildings undeveloped or unusable, practically speaking, or that the public opposition could actually be a detriment to the project in the long run. So what we've started to do, and on page 2, I've outlined a couple of different alternatives that we could pursue that would seek to address some of those. So the alternative 2 would be, instead of starting at the what you would consider to typically be the face of curb and taking the U gutter out, and then if there is a tree lawn, and then the sidewalk, and replacing all of that with a curb and gutter with a storm sewer and then a sidewalk, that you would simply replace the sidewalk and leave the existing gutter in place to prevent the negative impact to the property owners that have that head-in parking along there. The other benefit to that is it's a drastically smaller project, so it brings what was a project that was growing in cost because MoDOT was no longer willing to contribute, and it brings it down to a much more scalable level, probably similar or maybe even slightly less than what we'd envisioned for the project initially. The third alternative would be kind of a combination of the U gutter and the vertical curb, where we were not able to find an agreement with the property owner. Quite honestly, I don't think MoDOT will probably be supportive of this. I don't think we'll be able to get a letter of support, but it is something that we're at least trying to gauge their interest if they would allow us to kind of still address some of those issues along there. So those are the 3 alternatives that we've been looking at, and really at this point we're looking for some direction from the board on, you know, what alternative, what are the goals that you want us to focus on, so that we can put this application together and hopefully address the desires and meet the goals of the board.
Thank you. Anybody got comments for him? Yes.
I'm a little bit confused, okay? Because my understanding at the Public Works meeting was, one, we were going to have another special Public Works meeting, which I understand that Chairman Robertson decided just to waive that. Part of that was to have the engineers before us, because we had talked about doing this in various phases, and so I was assuming that we would see drawings and have their technical expertise. And then at the fire command study that we went to this week, Bola had indicated that Lee Cannon would be here tonight. The other thing is when we were talking about the application that was put in 2013, we said that that was going to be the basis for the application, and you had stated that the business owners had bought into this.
We did have several letters of support that went along with that application, but I don't believe that we had universal support.
It wasn't every business along Manchester Road, but we had a significant amount of letters from the businesses along that we submitted at that time, yes.
Okay, I was pretty certain that we had said that that would not be an issue when we were at the Public Works meeting. And then now, we're saying we don't have the business support. We've got 2 weeks, and we've got to hurry up and try to find something that's going to get approved. We submitted this project in 2013 along with the Hanley Industrial, and I had at that time brought up the fact that we're not going to get them both approved, and Manchester really needs something to be done about it. Well, we put both applications in, and it was only at $2 million because MoDOT was willing to help us at that point, and Hanley Industrial got picked. But then we skipped even submitting an application the next year. And as you said at the Public Works, if you don't apply, you don't get. And now here, it comes before us with 1 month to hurry up and get this ready, and we haven't even met with the engineers, and it sounds to me that we're iffy about meeting with all the property owners. I mean, this doesn't seem like much time to be able to get a valid application together with the hopes of getting it accepted by February 19th. Are we hopeful for this? I mean, do we believe that we can really get the sidewalks, this area improved?
We're trying as best as we can to work with CBB to help us do that. What has changed is that the support that we thought we had for this project with MoDOT has now changed. What they're requiring us to do is a little bit more comprehensive, which means that the cost has gone up. And that's why during the months of December and earlier on in January, I met with East West Gateway to find out what can the city do different so that we will be awarded points that make our application more viable to be selected. And that was when we were told that the cost, total construction project cost, needed to be approximately 1.3. Meeting with MoDOT and their request that they would like us to remove 4 inches of the surface, the cost of the project has jumped to now $4 million.
Well, it's a shame. I mean, we could see the writing on the wall for MoDOT, and especially too when, you know, the that tax didn't pass, that their money's drying up. But the thing about it is we were deciding, how are we going to get it to $1.3 million? What can we get done by February 19th that will help improve that area? I mean, can we get the sidewalks at least done? And it seems to be that our concern is always worried about MoDOT. If there's, you know, if we do the sidewalks and their surface crumbles, well, I think then they're going to have to step up to the plate and do something about it. But I mean, we need to.
The issue is because it's in their right of way, we have to have a letter of support for them to even make an application.
So the sidewalks are in their right of way too?
Yeah.
All of it's in their right of way?
Well, I wouldn't go out on a limb and say all of it, but from looking at an aerial image on the county's database, it appears that the majority of the sidewalk is in
And
the
so we're
state's
going to be
right-of-way.
helping MoDOT, and they don't want our help.
Their concern, and we're going to run into the same discussion on the sidewalks, because there are points where the sidewalk backs up to the face of the curb. So if we talk about just the U-gutter, typically what we would have recommended is that you just go in and you do a saw cut along there, you remove the U-gutter and install a typical curb and gutter section. And what they've said is, given their funding issues, they're uncertain if that would cause any potential increase in maintenance costs for them. And so they won't allow us to do anything that may have an impact in the future.
So why did we not submit last year too for this? And I know I brought this up months ago at Ways and Means because I'm targeted in the budget. At one point, Alderman Kramer had High School Drive, and that was going to be trying to be reclassified as a collector street. Once again, diverting the attention from Manchester Road, where we really need to do some improvements. I guess, you know, at this time, you know, engineering studies, I'm not an engineer, but I do know that we as a city, we as a board have said repeatedly that we want to improve that area. So I guess what are we going to do in the next 2 weeks to make sure?
Option 3 is probably the most likely that could get funding, which would just be U-gutter, curb and gutter, and replacement of sidewalks. That could possibly bring the cost down. That would probably limit the impact to the property owners along Manchester Road. That would guarantee greater support for this project. We've been calling MoDOT, hoping to hear from them.
Do you think you'd get their
support.
MoDOT support on that?
Okay, and do we
any
have like
application.
Councilman Dolan in? Do we have other people in there helping or championing for us? I mean, this seems to me that it's something that we really need to address, and we've been very successful at getting the Litzingham Road, and we've gotten 3 that involve the Hanley Industrial Court area. This area desperately needs help. It seems to me that we should be able to at least be successful in getting this ball moving, and that we should get some money.
Therefore, if there is a resolution approved by the board tonight, it indicates that you're directing staff to continue to work with CBB, our engineers, to submit the application. Our goal is to still to submit it, but we need the approval of the board on this resolution because that's part of the application submittal.
Okay.
Right, but I'd like to see what's going to be some, you know, if we need another meeting in between, because there's some
Is there time?
more information
There's
that
only
we
2
can get.
weeks.
You have a meeting next week.
Okay.
Andy, did you want to?
Yeah, my problem, Bola, with even option 3, currently the way we're looking to approach it, we've reached somewhere in the neighborhood of a $4 million expenditure. Could we reduce that expenditure with least amount of impact is to do the curbs and gutters on the south side of Manchester Road? Because there's only one property on the south side that would possibly adversely be affected by curbs and gutters on that one versus the 6 that are on the north side. That would also reduce your bill down and give us a chance to move towards doing something. Would that be more entertainable?
It would, and when we talked to Public Works Committee, we had brought up the fact that this would be done in phases. That was the recommendation that was given to us as well. So the application that we would be submitting would be phase 1 of a 3-part phase project or a 2-part phase project. And we could start on the
But-
north side, side.
But that phasing was looking at a longer stretch of Brentwood all the way down to Hanley, and we then sliced it down, or
Right.
MoDOT helped us by slicing it down to Salem to Brentwood. The trick is to try to find something that works in that direction
Right.
to go after. The resolution currently, as it's written, is just that the board does agree with working with East West Gateway and trying to do something in the arrangement. But this doesn't spell out
That would-
anything as to which way we're
Yes, the
presenting.
detail would be in the application itself.
Are we ready to vote?
Well, I'll ask one other question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, and that is the information that the mayor presented at the coffee for the mayor on last Friday, or a week ago Friday, in January. It was his comments in that meeting that this is not a doable project. Can we get further information as to what's going on and why he came out that way?
He will be at the March meeting.
Well, that's the March, but we need to do something on this resolution at this point.
What are you asking me to do?
I'm trying to understand how he had information that would come out and
He-
say, don't bother to go any further on
He
any of
has-
this.
He had the same information that we're sharing with you tonight, that has been in the report all along. It was his conclusion. I can't say more than that, because I don't know.
There's no
I can't
faith in
speak
Can
for
I
him.
ask,
Yes.
has the engineers looked at, and with the CM2 Hill, the flooding study, there was also portion of that of relocating portions of Manchester Road. Has that all been considered in?
It's been considered in that that's why they did the western section first, because the idea was that as you move further east, you run into more significant flooding issues. So they moved to the western side because you have fewer of those relative to the eastern side. Now, did it take into account anything along the lines of raising Manchester Road? Absolutely not.
Okay, I'm
it does
just
not
wondering,
include-
is there more of a long-term plan here, and that's why we're not achieving this money as fast? I know we would have liked to have acquired more of the property through flooding by changing that definition, and that didn't happen. Is there a bigger plan here at work
Is there-
Bigger plan.
for Manchester Road, or?
No.
No.
The only plan that I'm aware of is the plan that came out with, that MoDOT had announced with Amendment 7 that failed through the ballot. So I think short of that, they don't really have a plan for any major changes along this corridor anytime in the near future.
Okay, so it's just up to us what we can do.
Shall we?
Well, I think that's the point. We can't do anything without MoDOT's cooperation, and they're not cooperating at all.
Yeah,
They've jacked the cost way up high, and they've really just told us we're not going to get this project. It's a waste of money to get the engineers involved and make an application right now.
Thank you.
No, wait a minute,
You
Mr.
got a
Chairman.
question?
If I may make a suggestion, and I'd like the board to comment in on it. This is the third time that I'm aware of in the last 14 years that we've tried doing something down on Manchester Road and haven't been able to get off step one. St. Louis County works on its easements through its roadways over time by establishing, as new businesses come in and new development is done, take down and restructure your lot so that you can establish your business. They actually put in requirements that says, by the way, give me so much easement rights so that we can give you a curb cut and all of this. Can the city of Brentwood and the Planning and Zoning Committee look at drafting an ordinance along the Manchester Road corridor in which we establish certain criterias for new businesses coming in that are doing development on their plots to incorporate and make these things a requirement as they become a new business in town, and over time slowly work the pieces together? Because I do not see a full functioning plan ever getting off the ground.
I guess I'll defer to Frank slightly on that, but I mean, in my experience, yes, you can absolutely put those together, and it's a long process, but it gets you to the end result.
It does, but we got to try something different than what we've been trying.
Well, I think we're at a point, it seems to me anyway, that we ought to be able to say, is this resolution what you want? if it is, let's vote yes, and if it isn't, let's vote no. And if it's something different you want, then we need to come up with whatever is that something different, right? Call the roll.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
You need a motion and a second.
Oh, okay, who's, somebody
Motion
make
to
a motion?
approve, Your Honor.
I make a
resolution.
motion that we
Go ahead.
Okay.
1027.
Approve, I mean,
approve
motion, is that-
1027 resolution with the hopes of actually submitting a grant application that we can win.
Okay,
I second that.
all right, we got a motion and a second. Frank, that take care of it?
That takes care of it, now you
All
can
right.
vote.
Roll call.
Alderman Robertson,
No.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Tui,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Manister,
Yes.
Alderman Saunders.
Yes.
Okay. Did the resolution pass?
We don't have 5.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, it's a resolution.
The
It's a
resolution does
resolution,
pass
not-
because it only needed a simple majority.
Right.
Correct.
Right, okay. Let's see, we have accounts against the city next.
Yes, Your Honor. Before we, so you have a warrant list in the amount of $233,588.60. I'd like to make a motion to approve the warrant list as submitted for February 2nd, 2015.
Is there a second?
I will second that. Let's
You will
pay some
second.
bills.
Call the roll.
Alderman Robertson,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Tui,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Manister,
Yes.
Alderman Saunders.
Yes.
Pass it. Well, next it says the mayor's report. When you only been mayor one night, you don't have a long report. But I would just like to say this aside, come to the end of what I call the best 24 years working for the best city in the county as an alderman. I tell you that we have a great city. I've also taught school here 33 years. I can't think of a finer city that I'd rather have spent these years with than Brentwood. My wife had a wonderful career here as being a nurse at the grade school, and we've seen some, and I just tell you, I'm just so thankful that I can say I look back and spent 24 years being an alderman in the city of Brentwood. And I've served with some of the finest people. I've served with several mayors. I've served with a lot of different ones. And I've served with several city administrators. And Frank, you've been here a long time though, haven't you? You've been here what? Long now?
I don't know,
Anyway.
about 8 years, 10 years?
But I get up and I thank the good Lord all the time because, and you know, and we've had our disagreements and we've had some days that we're not so good as others, but where do you go that is perfect? I haven't been in that place yet. I'm going to go there one day, but that's something else. Anyway, I just wanted to take my part of the report to say that I'm just thankful for it. I couldn't want it a better deal than Brentwood. Anyway, the next, Public Safety Committee, have no reports. How about the Public Works Committee?
No report, Your Honor.
No report. Director of Planning and Development. Ways and Means.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a committee meeting coming up Tuesday, the 10th, I believe, at 6:30 here in Chambers.
Okay, that's it. All right, City Attorney,
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator,
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner. He's not here. Library, no report. Municipal League, I guess, no, I don't have a report from that. Historical Society. Dan, is there anything that you know of? Was Dan still here? Nothing historical. Nothing. By the way, Dan does a great job. We are so blessed in Brentwood to have a historical society. Remember when Mrs. Gill was trying to get that together, and then we went over here where the old building used to be, and then now they have the house, and it's just, if you've never been there, you really ought to go and look at some of the old things. Brentwood has a very unique history, very interesting history. I guess that's closed meeting. Let's see, unfinished business. Yes.
I was noticing in the application that we put together for 2013 for the Manchester Road, the preliminary complete date was February 15th, and that means it's just ready for comments. But then a final application was due in March. So do we have a preliminary date and then a final date for this application?
They've changed it since then, and the preliminary is now in January with the final in February.
Did we submit something preliminary in January?
No, but we've
No,
been
that
in
was when we
discussions
met
with
with
them.
them.
Right. The preliminary is not a required, it's only for comments.
Okay.
And so that's why we've been meeting with East West Gateway.
Okay, and then also in this application, it says this project will replace the existing concrete swale and sidewalk with barrier curb, gutter, and new sidewalk on both north and south sides. Under a separate project, MoDOT will be resurfacing the pavement in 2016. So why can't we still do that MoDOT as a separate project?
Because MoDOT will no longer commit the funds that they had previously committed.
But they'll prevent us from doing our work.
They will require us to do the work that they were previously going to do.
For 1.6 million and go up to a 4 million.
No,
That's what
I
you're committing
understand.
to.
No, I understand what I'm saying, but here MoDOT was willing to do
Yeah.
theirs.
They had previously committed to pay for all the pavement restoration along
Right.
the area. And now they've said they will not pay for that work, but they will still require it to be done.
And in 2014, did they not want to help again, or we just didn't?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other unfinished business? Any, I know you're coming up here. Any new business?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ward 3 meeting for the month of February, yay, February, is Tuesday night, the 24th of February at 7 p.m. here in the council room. All are invited. Thank you, sir.
Oh, anyone else? Yes, Tom?
Yes, Your Honor, just wanted to say welcome to one of our newest restaurants in the city, who holds the esteemed record for the longest distance between starting the project and actually opening the doors. That would be Einstein Bagels.
Yep.
And they are tasty, so
Yay.
if the lines or the parking lot is full at Brentwood Square, you can still support your Brentwood tax base by going to Einstein Bagels.
And Dickies.
And Dickies as well.
You should be on TV.
Yes.
Root beer floats.
Anyone else?
Public comment.
Oh, I didn't want to say one other thing, and that's about Kevin. Kevin and I have been together a long time working. Remember when we first started television way back? Well, we built a little room and we worked out of it, and we had some shows back then. So I just want to say thanks, Kevin, for all the years that you've worked here and given us your support. Thank you.
Likewise, my friend.
Okay, we ready for a
Public comment.
public comment? Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. I'm sorry, I wouldn't leave you out. It wasn't intentional.
Louise Charbonneau, 8833 Match. Alderman Nguyen, I have a hard time catching up to the Public Safety Committee meetings. As you all may have noticed, I've been having a pretty good attendance record with the board meetings and the subcommittee meetings. And Thursday late, I came to a meeting that wasn't, and then missed the meeting Monday that was, because I was interested in the sign problem. And you may recall I even brought a sample. And so, am I to understand that the word slow will still appear on any of these signs?
We're yet to determine that. It's going to go back
That's,
to public
that's why it's
safety.
coming back to public safety.
Okay, because if you cause one little bit of hurt to the parent of a child who could be considered to be impaired or challenged, that there's no place for that in Brentwood.
Right.
The only way, to me, to use the word slow is if you put slow colon and make it an imperative.
Right.
Children. The other thing is with regard to the Manchester Road corridor. I was at the coffee, and the mayor did say that one of MoDOT's objections to this project is doing piecemeal, because what if the redevelopment, you do the sidewalks, redevelopment comes and everything gets torn up.
Yes.
So, and I do recall from the flood mitigation study, it was either the gentleman from the Corps of Engineer, either in chambers or out in the parking lot, said that unless Congress goes back to adopting earmarking,
Oh, my.
when Senator Bridges built a bridge to nowhere in Alaska, we would need $35 million, and it's only going to come through an earmark.
Yep.
So, but if there's anything that we can do, I heard an alderwoman from Crestwood speak the other day, and it sounds corny and cheesy, but some type of beautification. If we are able to proceed with the sidewalks, I know that, and I don't know the name of it, where you put a grill and you can actually plant a tree. There's no green down there, for one thing.
That's right.
And even if we can do planters, something to, Now, I know we can't put it in the middle of the swale because, by golly, somebody pulling out a lawn care will take it out. But we don't have, if we can't think big, then we have to settle for small, and we can still do it.
Amen.
So, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Hey, yes.
James Stabbing, 2612 Porter, and I agree with the last speaker. Even if we can't do the big things, we can do the little things. You know, so many times I've come up here to talk about holes that are 2 feet wide along that corridor next to bus stops. Now, those have been fixed thanks to city staff going back to MoDOT and saying, you need to fix this, guys. But there's so many things. Right now, there's a curb at the fishing place that's 3-foot piece of curbing that's just sitting there. It's 2 inches from the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take a genius to figure out, just put the curbing back to where it was on the parking lot. I mean, those are little things. It's like the little things are what are adding up. The corner, that boarding at the corner of Hanley and Manchester that we have been, it's been looking at that for 6-7 years now. It's a construction fence and nothing's constructing. I, as a resident, could not have a parcel of land in Brentwood and have a construction fence up there for 6 years and not have the city coming and saying, come on, this is ridiculous. Put up a nice fence, fix the area up. Look what happened at the Sports Attic. They covered it over in grass and it was purchased in a short period of time. This is 7 years we've been looking at a decaying construction fence. You know, we were just saying, let's beautify it. You know, if we can't do the big things, let's think outside the box and do the little things that can make a difference. Put some trees, put some bushes, you know, do some painting and sprucing up. At least it looks a little bit better. And those swales, if we can't get rid of them, why can't they at least fix the swales so that people aren't popping tires and getting flats just pulling into the businesses? And that's mostly on the north side. I know the people on the south side have been doing a good job at trying to clean up their areas, but why can't we as city administrators ask the property owners, hey, try to spruce up your area? There's boards laying around and that's ridiculous. We wouldn't be able to do that as residents, would be cited. Why can't we go back? We're not asking people to put a whole lot of money into their businesses. Just take pride in it. It's our home. Thank you.
On the same vein, Melanie Hancock, 2627 Lewis. I would like to know from my alderman, was your no vote just now based on the fact that you don't think that we have a snowball shot in hell of getting anything done?
Yes.
On the project, was that what your vote was based on?
Well,
so everybody else is willing to keep trying. All the other aldermen up here with their yes vote are willing to keep pushing, but you guys are not willing to keep pushing. Is that a correct or incorrect statement?
Incorrect, Melanie.
Okay.
Andy, we're not supposed to have.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
We're not supposed to have two-way. You're supposed to comment.
I have an issue with that, and with the upcoming election, that's stuck in my head. The swales, they're horrible. So, as I understand it, nothing can be done because MoDOT's tied our hands. I would love to see a continued push. And yeah, a piecemeal. We should take whatever we can get to fix the drainage issues down there that in the winter are a safety hazard. That becomes puddles of ice. I've slipped on them, they're horrible. I would love for anything to be done. The beautification, I think a huge part of that is what's happening with Thiessen Farms. I'm watching that building fall down every time I drive past it. At what point can we approach the property owners of Thiessen Farms, of Colt, of the vacant buildings and say, you have got to do something to clean these buildings up because nobody wants to buy them, lease them, rent them, whatever, in the condition they're in, and nobody wants to move in next to them. It's looking like a derelict street. So if you're talking about bringing more business in, which will bring more money into the city, it's not going to happen by watching our buildings fall down. So I would love to see a push to the business owners. And like I said before, RPM, that's a mess. County Glass and Mirror, there is glass everywhere. I walk through there. Anyone else who walks through there, you're walking your dog through piles of glass. The business owners have to be accountable. Thanks.
Well, I think we're ready for that famous motion.
Motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
That's it.